And boom, we are back, guys, once again with another review.
Yeah.
This time around, guys, we're going to be doing a full review on Chris Adams' Dark Side of the Ring episode.
Hell yeah.
Which is, which is Season 5, Episode 7, and it's called Chris Adams, the Gentleman and the Demon. And I know why they're naming it that.
Exactly, yeah, you understand why because that was true with him, like...
Right, normal guy when he's sober, but a whole nother person while he's drunk.
Yeah, when he's drunk, he's just a violent, like...
crazy motherfucker. And everybody was saying that, when he got mad like that or whatever, his eyes would, like, glow red and shit.
Yeah, which that's weird because...
That's really weird, man. That sounds like demonic possession type shit, if you believe in that stuff. I don't know, but that is really weird.
See, they're talking about in that video that his eyes glow red.
Right.
But years ago, I read the story about Chris Adams, and the guy was saying that his eyes were black.
Oh, whatever. I mean, either way, man, that's fucking weird.
That would be crazy to see that. Like, obviously, that's not normal.
No.
Somebody's eyes are just fucking glowing red.
Yeah, that's a little strange. And that's just one of many things that we're going to go over in this Dark Side of the Ring episode. But beforehand, let me just go over, his bio here, where he was born in 1955, and he passed away in 2001 at the age of 46.
Yeah.
It says here, Chris Adams, he's best known as the Gentleman. Chris Adams was an English professional wrestler, promoter, coach, and he was into martial arts too. He was into judo.
Yeah.
Also, he was in charge of training Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
And popularized. He
actually showed the moment where he turned on him, because Steve Austin originally came in as Steve Williams,
right, and he had long blonde hair. This was before this was Stone Cold, in the WWF.
But he came out and told Chris, it's not Williams, it's Austin.
Yeah,
Steve Austin.
Right.
It's cool how he stuck with that name, his whole wrestling career.
Right. Even though they tried to change it in the WWF, what were they going to call him before Stone Cold?
Well, yeah, he started off as the Ringmaster.
Yeah, what a horrible fucking name.
Yeah, and if you ever heard the story, Stone Cold talked about that before.
Yeah.
How he came in as the Ringmaster. He's like basically a couple months of that. Basically, it sucks. It's not me, and there's no personality, and I can't be myself. And he's like, so I came up with a Stone Cold thing, and away it went.
Yeah, the rest is history. But anyways, Chris Adams.
To think that Steve Austin was trained by Chris Adams,
right?
And not only trained by him, but eventually got paired with Chris Adams' wife.
Right.
Which the two of them later wound up having an actual affair.
Right. Well, no, I think it was his ex-girlfriend, Chris Adams' ex-girlfriend that he had. But this was Chris Adams' idea, though.
Yeah, and the fact that they wound up, getting paired together and actually fell for each other.
Yeah. Same thing happened with Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it's the same thing that happened with Kurt Angle and Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah. How wild.
But
didn't the same thing happen to Lita with one of the Hardy Boys?
Yeah, with Matt Hardy and Edge.
Man, ain't that a bitch, man?
Yeah, it's like, dude, you never know what happened.
But yeah, Chris Adams, he was really well known in the 80s.
Yeah, he was part of that whole world class deal with the Von Erichs.
Right, and he had his
Great
partner.
matches with Kevin Von Erich.
Yeah. Well, Kevin Von Erich, he talks about Chris Adams in this Dark Side of the Ring episode.
It was cool before go on about this, but it was cool about that because you got to see a bunch of the people that you remember growing up and watching world class, like Kevin Von Erich, Iceman King Parsons,
right,
James Beard. Forgot the other guy that was like the promoter or somebody. Can't remember that, but it was like, oh man, that's cool, because I hadn't seen Iceman King Parsons in fucking years, since like the 90s.
Right, and it also says here that Chris Adams, he popularized the super kick.
Yeah, and that's what people were saying. He threw one of the most, like, from what the guy was saying, it would look devastating, but he said he would make it in a way like it would barely even touch you, and how it made it look so sound like he smacked them is that when he threw the kick, Chris would smack his knee.
Right, to give it that sound effect.
Yeah, and it's just like, wow, it's crazy how that actually worked, because when you see him throw the kick, you're not paying attention to his hand slapping his knee.
Right.
You're watching his foot that he's throwing up to the guy's face, and you hear that smack, and you think, oh, dude, he just kicked him right in the face.
Yeah, and he also had a partner back in the 80s, but he passed away from a drug overdose.
Yeah, Gino Hernandez.
Right, and those guys, from what they're saying, could party like motherfuckers.
Yeah, and they were a great team. Like, they showed some of the old footage of them, like, sitting there calling themselves the dynamic duo, and they're like, we're bad, we're real bad, we're bad to the bone.
Yeah, that's, looking at that, I remember watching that, I thought, that's kind of silly, but maybe it was cool back in that time.
Yeah, back in the 80s, dude, stuff like that was like,
was said.
Was real, meant more.
Right.
Like, now it does sound silly, a wrestler coming out saying, I'm bad, I'm real bad, I'm bad to the bone.
Yeah, it does kind of sound silly, but...
Yeah, but it's funny.
It was probably cool back then and whatnot, and I remember them saying that they'd have a lot of girls come over, they'd be doing a lot of cocaine, and then even pay off cops.
Yeah, that story from Iceman King Parsons.
Yeah.
They went into a room and said there wasn't just, a plate of cocaine. They were fucking bricks of cocaine.
Yeah.
He said at one point he looked up and there was like 2 cops standing in the room, and they're thinking, the guy's like, tell him, like, don't worry, man, I got this. And they paid the fucking cops off just or something. And I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, that's pretty wild, man. So they had some wild times back then. He was well known. They had beefs with the Von Erichs and all that, which was really cool. Yeah, there's even one where they had to shave his fucking hair.
Yeah, they did a tag team hair versus hair match.
Yeah.
It was him and Gino. I know it was Kevin Von Erich. I'm trying to think. I want to say it was Mike Von Erich.
Yeah, I think all the Von Erichs were there at that, or maybe not the one that passed away in early 90. I think 83.
Yeah, the youngest one, Chris, when he was just a kid, he got involved in the match because Chris and Gino tried to take off after the match because they didn't want to get their heads shaved.
Yeah.
And
I believe
ran up and tackled one of them down and like took him back to the ring, and they wound up getting their damn heads shaved.
And I believe that match I have on the Chris Adams documentary, because I have a documentary on him, and I believe that match is on there. And I haven't seen that doc in a while, but some of the things in the Dark Side of the Ring, I don't remember them mentioning about, like the one time where Chris was in a bar and he super kicked
he super kicked the
bartender, and his fucking eyeball came out.
Yeah, like.
And I was just like, damn, dude, what the, And then
he didn't care, like.
Yeah, because he was the from what they were saying, he was like a whole nother person while he was drinking.
Yeah, like he said there was a time they were on a road trip, they were drinking, and he got so pissed off at the guy that
the taxi driver, right?
Yeah, that he like said he choked him and they almost damn near killed him.
Yeah, and because he didn't get him on time to his wrestling event.
Yeah.
But I just like. And then there was another time with Kevin Von Erich was talking about they were on a plane.
Yeah,
and they were drinking.
Yeah, they were drinking. They said that it was such a horrible plane because
it got delayed or something for a while.
Yeah, and there was no air conditioning on the plane. It was hot.
Right.
And everybody was drinking and.
Right.
They said before you knew it, Chris was pounding them back and. At one point, the flight attendant wanted to,
cut him off.
And he got up getting mad and
called her a bitch.
And she slapped him, and he slapped her back, and
then the fucking
one of the other
one of the workers on the plane came up to Chris and hey, what are you doing? And blah blah blah. And here's the weird part. He said when Kevin Von Erich, he said. When he turned around, he picked this guy up. He literally lifted him up way in the air, and he goes, "Feel my power," or something like that. And he headbutted this fucking guy a couple times or something.
Yeah.
Really fucked him up. And he said his eyes changed color, like red or something, didn't he?
Yeah. That's when they were all talking about his eyes glowing red.
Yeah, and that is really weird, man. That to me makes me think signs of being possessed.
Yeah, I mean it's something because I just don't see how alcohol
can make your fucking eyes glow.
Yeah, I'm just not talking about that, but making you just be that way.
Yeah, it making you have superhuman fucking type powers.
Yeah, it's like
it's weird, man.
It's just,
it's very different. You would think after a few incidents like that, you'd be like, all right, I'm gonna have to stop drinking because I turn into this crazy fucking monster.
Yeah. Because like I said, it wasn't just the drinking; it was the drugs, and and at one point he got into like GHB and
right. And I remember when I was watching this episode, so man, I just don't understand that. Because anytime I like to get drunk once in a while, and I'd like to get pretty trashed. I'll get really drunk, but I'm a super nice version of myself when I'm drunk. Like I'm normally a really cool person, but I'm like doubly nice when I'm drunk. I never get mad.
Yeah.
So I can't understand being all engulfed in rage and wanting to do crazy shit.
Somebody who could go from being the nicest guy ever,
right,
like being cool as hell, and then you get a few drinks in them, and
right, you're fired up.
You say one wrong thing to them, and next thing you know, a motherfucker's trying to kill you.
Right. It's to me, it's just really odd, But they did have his son talk, and his daughter talk.
His daughter said that what was so crazy is that they said that Stone Cold Steve Austin at one point was her stepdad.
Right.
Because he was married to her mom for a while. And
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Ain't that something?
It was funny because she said that she was watching a match that they had mixed tag match. It was Chris and who was the other girl that is like his current girlfriend or something at the time against Stone Cold and her Jeannie, I think her name was.
I don't recall offhand.
But and she's like, wow, this is weird to watch. It's like I'm watching my dad, my dad and my stepmom. Against my mom and my stepdad. like how
that
weird,
is kind of trippy to think about.
Yeah. How weird would that be to actually, like, growing up as a kid, you're watching a match and you're watching, like, on one side of the ring, your dad and your stepmom, and they're taking on your mom and your stepdad.
Right.
Like, that would just be probably the craziest match to ever watch. But like, wow, this is insane. Like, you know.
Right.
But I mean, they talked about that. How about the one where he fought Rod Price, and they said that Rod Price wore a hairpiece that was like stitching it. They even everybody told him, like, you know, pulling this hair was off limits, and
he wouldn't done it anyways.
Yeah, they had a match where Chris just grabbed a hold of it and tore it. They said that blood, which, okay, that was kind of blown out of proportion, Ken, because I remember actually watching that match.
I was going to ask you, did you see that match? Because I tried to look it up on YouTube and I didn't see it. Or
like it was like they had a match and it was like real quick. Chris just went up and grabbed his hair and just ripped it right off. And like all the thing about they're saying, all the blood. Like, if I can remember correctly, I really didn't see a lot of blood.
Well, maybe they didn't have a close-up of his head. Maybe it was from distance shot or something.
I remember even the commentator like yelling out like, "Oh, Rod Price is bald."
Yeah, and then the match had to end from there.
Yeah.
And then from there, I believe he went into WCW as a fucking jobber because he lost all the time, from what they were saying.
Yeah, I mean, well, in WCW around that time frame, like a lot of you got to figure at that point in his career, Chris was like the only like person from the world class era that was still wrestling.
Yeah.
You know, like you think about it, Von Erichs weren't wrestling. All them guys were like basically done with wrestling, and he was still going. Yeah,
it's pretty wild. And so they just jobbed his ass out.
Yeah, they were showing all the people that he jobbed out to, like Hugh Morris, Macho Man. Remember he lost Eddie Guerrero.
The Steiner brother.
Yeah.
What's it, the Big Show?
Yeah, and dude, I never. It's funny. I never saw that. For some reason, I never saw that match. But
with him smoking a cigarette and just kind of avoiding him.
Yeah, it wasn't even a match. Like, he tried to attack him, and the next thing you know, he fucking choke slammed him. With his foot on his chest while he was taking a drag off the cigarette. Like,
it's like okay, you're gonna do that to this guy?
Not just like any wrestler, but a legend at that time, like Chris Adams.
Right.
All the years he busted his ass in world class and global wrestling, and then finally getting called up to WCW just to fucking
job to everyone.
They did that to a lot of like the older guys when they signed in the WCW.
Didn't they do that with Bret Hart?
No, they really didn't do that with Bret. They just really didn't do much at all.
Oh yeah, you're right. They didn't really use him right.
But like people who made like big names and like WWF and stuff, that like for example, Rick Martel.
Mm-hmm.
He came in, but he actually had a good run going with Booker T, and then in one of the matches he wound up like hurting his knee or blowing out his knee or something, and that basically ended his run there. But like they were bringing in a lot of like they were doing the same thing with Greg Valentine in the 90s.
What, jobbing him out too?
Yeah, they basically brought him out. I remember him coming out and working matches on Nitro, fucking jobbing out basically to everybody.
Damn.
Like, are you serious? You bring in all these like guys in who are past their prime, and just have them come in and just as they call what was that, talent, whatever you call it.
They just misused good talent.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And so they ended up firing Chris Adams from WCW for, what was it, drinking and driving?
Yeah,
he got a DUI or something?
Yeah, he got stopped for a DUI, and WCW at that time, I guess they had that policy, like, you fuck up, you're gone.
Right. So he's gone, and then I guess that he became broke and started living with a friend.
Yeah.
And then one night, the friend, he had got a new girlfriend, Chris did, and she overdosed on this, what is that drug called?
GHB stuff.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Like they came in, and the guy said that he was, going to bed, and
he would
like he didn't like the fact they were doing that GHB shit, and
she overdosed on that and alcohol. It says Adams recovered.
Yeah,
but 10 hours. It says 10 hours later, this girl died at the local hospital.
Yeah, she probably took too much of that shit, and that shit fucked her up, and to the point where it killed her, man.
That's horrible. And the guy said that she was a super nice person too.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying that she was one of the nicest women you could ever meet in your life, and it's just like, that sucks, man.
And because of that, it says Adams was indicted and charged with manslaughter. But while awaiting trial, on October 7th, it says 2001, he was fatally shot in the chest with a .38 caliber handgun during a drunken brawl with his friend.
Yeah, the guy that he was living with.
Right.
And the guy was even on Dark Side of the Ring talking about it.
Right. He was also in the documentary, and he went more into the documentary about what went down that he did in Dark Side of the Ring. Yeah. Well, maybe he went in more in the Dark Side of the Ring, but they might have cut some stuff out. But in that doc, he really goes into details. Whereas into the what's that?
So I could not imagine have to basically kill like your friend.
He wasn't trying to kill him though. I think he said he was trying to just shoot him in the chest or whatever, or not the chest, the upper shoulder. But Chris had moved, and it caught him. I think it caught him in the heart. But yeah, he had Chris come over. They were drinking or whatever, and he had said something that I guess Chris didn't like keep it down. My mom's got to sleep.
Yeah, my mom was sleeping, and Chris took that as an insult. Like,
he got super pissed again. And in the Dark Side of the Ring, he said he grabbed something, started swinging at the guy, and
swinging at him, and he put him in like a chokehold.
Oh, right, on the bed. And he said he's
biting him.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He said he was like biting on him and shit.
Yeah, he was spewing fucking blood.
Yeah,
shit.
It's funny. He didn't talk about his eyes in the Dark Side of the Ring episode, but in the documentary, he said something.
He did talk about it.
Did he?
He did say that he was trying. I mean, all he basically said is he was trying to, at one point, gouge his eyes out.
No. I was gonna say he didn't say his eyes turned red like normal people were saying.
Yeah.
But in the
No, I know. Like in a report I read years ago, he put down. He stated that his eyes didn't glow red; his eyes turned black.
Well, I don't know, but in the documentary, not the Dark Side of the Ring, he said his eyes did change color, and I thought, man, that's fucking scary. But in the Dark Side of the Ring, it wasn't mentioned. He didn't mention it, and if he did, they cut it out. But he shot him, and they showed pictures. They showed Chris laying on that bed. They showed him from they didn't show the face, but they showed like the body on down, which was kind of freaky, man.
Yeah,
I'm actually surprised that they posted that in the Dark Side of the Ring episode, the actual picture. Of Chris's body laying on the bed.
I must have missed that part, but
yeah, I mean it was real quick, and when I seen it, I was like, oh shit, can they do that? Is that a good idea?
I don't know, but
they were showing actual crime photos. They showed the gun on the table, you know, and all that. And I think they even showed pictures in the documentary as well. But I haven't seen the doc in a long time, so I'd have to go over that again. But yeah, that's pretty fucking crazy, all in all.
Yeah, all because, I mean, you know, if he probably would have been sober, that shit probably wouldn't have went down. But you know,
right.
What happened? He got drunk. He just got violent.
Right. He even beat up his wife.
Yeah.
And he almost got hit by a fucking truck while doing it. Oh no, he got an argument with his girlfriend or wife at the time with his son in the back. Yeah. And they pulled over, and they said a semi almost hit him, and I guess that irritated him. He started beating his wife up, or his girlfriend. I think it was his wife.
Yeah, because
I don't know. He's had many like girlfriends and wives. I'm not sure, you know, but I believe it was one of his wives. But I thought that was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So he was facing a lot of legal issues here.
I tell you what's crazy is that, you know, years ago, watching him in World Class Days, Global Wrestling Federation,
right.
WCW, and you know, you would have never thought, like, when you watched him, because you know he was mostly always, you know, a good guy and stuff, and always seemed like a nice guy, and then never imagined that he had a dark side like that. That when he got liquored up, he was just total opposite. Like,
right.
They said best he was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Right. Some people are like that though. I mean, when they get liquor, they want to fight and do all kinds of crazy shit. They feel invincible.
Me and you got drunk many times together. We never.
Because I've never felt like going out and doing anything like that.
You know, with us, you know, we're more like goofy drunks.
Yeah, I like to turn up the music and have a good time, and I'm in a super fucking good mood.
I like to watch shit that makes me laugh. Like,
right.
Like, I always get into like a laughing zone when I'm drunk. Like, man, I want to watch something that just makes me fucking laugh.
Hell yeah! But all in all, what do you think of this episode?
Yeah, I mean,
it's not as good as some of the others in season 5.
It wasn't as crazy as some of the other ones, but I mean, it did have, you know, that side of showing like what a different person he was, and you know what liquor and drugs would do to him, and
right.
It sucks the way he went out, you know.
Right. I mean, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Chris Colt story where he took drug acid or something before he got in the ring, started seeing spiders. LSD. Then he started punching out. Huh?
Yeah, so he saw giant spiders
and started punching out fucking fans.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, wait a minute. If people turn in, this is why I never touched any drug whatsoever, because I did not want to turn into something like that and then have to get lawsuit, go to jail, all that bullshit.
I mean, all you got to do is see shit like that and watch like Intervention and stuff and see what these drugs will do to you.
Yeah.
It's like, and I look at that shit like,
no thanks.
I don't ever want to do that shit.
Hell no. Never have, never will. The only thing I like to do, like I said, is get drunk once in a while, and that is it. Yeah. I'm not interested in trying anything that can change me, alter me into some ultimate crazy fucker.
Yeah, hell no.
You know,
man.
but
like, why would you? I mean, liquor is good enough by itself. It just
right.
You know, have a few drinks and have a good time.
Right. So, what do you think of Chris Adams' wrestling career in the '80s? Were you a fan of his?
Yeah, back in when his World Class days and the Global Wrestling Federation days, like he was a top star in those companies, and
right.
He was old school. Like I said, that super kick was. I'd have to say he could throw a better super kick than Shawn Michaels could.
Yeah, and this was before Shawn Michaels too.
Yeah.
But Shawn Michaels did a good job.
Oh yeah.
But
he even had some more style, like he doing the tune-up of the band,
right.
Stomping his foot. Like,
yeah, he added to it.
Like Chris would just throw that super kick like straight out of nowhere, like kind of like how the RKO is nowadays, like
right. which is pretty cool. But yeah,
yeah,
he was. What did you think of his in-ring performances against like the Von Erichs and all that back in the day?
Yeah, he had good matches. He can work.
He could definitely work. I give him that. I mean, he didn't have the size or the muscles, but he definitely could work.
He had wrestling ability, like you said, his judo background. And,
right, he'd done that for years.
He mixed all that style together. Judo and wrestling. It's like, hell, that's pretty cool.
Hell yeah. All in all, I would probably give this episode probably like a 7 out of 10. Okay. Something like that. Good episode. The one thing that shocked me was the whole plane incident where the girl slapped him and he slapped her back. And then he took up one of the workers or whatever and picked them up and headbutted them and shit. I thought, damn, dude, what the man? Don't drink, because it gets you in more trouble than anything. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'm saying that if you act totally a different way when you're drunk, it's like, why would you keep getting drunk?
Yeah, I understand. Wrestling is a life of pain, and these guys drink and do drugs to kill that pain. But
I mean, it's one thing to have a few drinks, but to get so drunk that you just turn into just a violent, crazy person.
Yeah,
it's
no good.
Snap on anything, don't matter who it is. It could be, like you said, your wife, your girlfriend, your best friend, a stranger. Like, he can fucking snap on anybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay, it was his wife. I'm reading here that in February of '88, Adams was arrested after his wife, Toni, was found severely beaten in Texas, allegedly by Adams during a drunken rage. He was sentenced to a year's probation. Wow, yeah. You would think by then, dude, that you would fucking chill out.
That would be a fucking wake-up call. You do something so bad.
Right, you gotta beat your own fucking wife, dude? Allegedly.
When you sober up, you're just like, oh my god, what the fuck did I do?
Right. I mean, even years ago, something happened to Ozzy Osbourne back in the late '80s, where I think he was drunk and I think on drugs, and he like turned into another person. No, well, not only that, he almost like turned into like a different type of person, according to his wife. And he just got up and started strangling her, allegedly. And she almost died. And then the next day or whatever, he found himself in the fucking jail cell. He woke up and he's like, what am I doing here? He's like, no, you're here for almost killing your wife. And he asked the cop, is this a fucking joke, man? He's like, oh, no.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some cases where you can drink so much that you'll just literally, like, black the hell out.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's happened to me if I get drunk, like big time drunk. I won't really remember much, but I don't leave the house. I know that. I'm in the house. I know for sure.
I've only one time in my life I ever fucked up where I was at a bar and I was doing some shots and just hanging out with a couple of my cousins and stuff.
Right.
And we were doing these shots, and I just remember at one point, like, I blacked the fuck out. Right?
Damn. Yeah, right. I remember, and you said you don't remember nothing but being home.
Like, I remember being at the bar at one point,
and then being home at the next.
Yeah, and then just waking up on my bathroom floor at my house, like freaking out at first, like, whoa, where the fuck am I? And then realizing, like, holy fuck, I'm home.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, dude, somebody had to have, like, driven me home, this, that. But no, I found out the next day, talking to my cousin after I sobered up, I asked him, like, how did I get home last night? He's like, you drove yourself home.
Jeez.
And I'm like, I remember thinking, like, dude, are you serious? Did you really see me? Right. He's like, yeah, man. I walked out the bar at one point to go smoke a cigarette, and I saw your car going down the road.
Wow. Yeah, that's something that I'll never do.
Yeah, after that incident, dude, I never did no shit like that again because that is scary. Like, knowing I drove myself. I mean, it was several miles from the bar to my house.
Right.
And the fact that I drove several miles and made it home without a problem, like, I consider that just being lucky, and don't ever do no shit like that again.
Exactly, because that could be dangerous. That's why I never go anywhere when I drink. It's always at home. I don't go to bars. You know, I don't do any of that shit. You know, it's always at the home, and I know I turn on the music and I just have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, why not, dude? You're home. You know, you don't have to go anywhere. You know, you got everything you need. Like,
right.
But I never understood the bar scene anyway. Like, I did the bar scene my younger days, but I look at it like how you do. If you're gonna drink, it's better off just chilling at home. And that way you don't have to go anywhere. You don't
have to worry about drinking and driving. But anyways, we're sidetracking a little bit. But the whole point is don't drink and go anywhere. Because Chris Adams, he drank and he seemed to be, either at the fucking bar getting into some problems or at the fucking airport.
Yeah.
Or, on the plane. It's like, don't do that, I
mean, what's funny about this season of Dark Side of the Ring?
Yeah.
I just realized it's now like every wrestler they've been talking about, like all seem like they had problems with alcohol.
Well, yeah, a lot of them do.
Like alcohol and drugs, like Chris Adams, Chris Cole. What was the one before? They were talking about.
Well, there was Harley Race, Brutus the Beefcake, the Free Bird, Terry Gordy.
Yeah, Terry Gordy. They were
Buff Bagwell.
Yeah.
I don't think Earthquake was really doing drugs.
No, I don't think
they never. I don't think they mentioned that. He didn't. I don't think he was a drinker either.
He was, like I said, Earthquake was more of a family man.
Yeah, he was more of a down to earth, right? But I think Buff, he was into the drugs and shit. He got into some trouble too. It's like, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Another wrestler that they haven't never talked about that had big problems with drugs and alcohol back in the day was Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie Guerrero, but I believe he was on one of the Dark Side of the Ring episodes.
Because I know, reading his story, like, I had his book at one point. He was talking about all the stories he had about drinking and driving, trying to leave his brother's place drunk, and he's trying to smash a gate open to get out. The cops busted him, and that's how he wound up getting fired from WWF back in 2001.
Yeah, I believe they talked about. Yeah, they did talk about him in one of the seasons with Chris Benoit, and I'm not sure. I don't remember if they got into his whole drinking scene. I know they got in. I believe they talked about his drug stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the drinking. But yeah, a lot of these guys, they do that to fucking kill the pain.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It reminds me now of that GHB shit that they were talking about Chris Adams and his girlfriend doing. That's what caused Eddie Guerrero to have this car wreck.
Oh, damn.
He said it was like he got up in the middle of the night one night, said he wanted some eggs, and they didn't have no eggs in the fridge, and he took some like GHB and got in his car, started driving down to the store, and just he just basically passed out or blacked out. Before he knew it, he was like in the mangled remains of his fucking car.
No, that's crazy. That's really dangerous, man. Dangerous.
Like, you almost kill yourself just going out to get some eggs.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But all in all, good episode on the Dark Side of the Ring with Chris Adams.
Yeah.
They went into a lot of things.
As far as being a wrestler, he was great. But like from Like all these wrestlers, they have a dark side,
Right. And if you want to know more about Chris Adams, there's a documentary out there called The Gentleman's Choice, which I have on DVD, but I haven't seen it in a while. One day I'll probably review it, watch it again and review it. That goes into, I believe, more details, that are not in the Dark Side of the Ring episode.
Yes.
And vice versa. There's some stuff in the Dark Side of the Ring that I don't think they talked about in that Gentleman's Choice documentary. So it's good to watch both. But anyways, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up, unless if you have something else to say about Chris Adams.
Heck yeah. Okay. And the lesson should be of this one. It should be, don't do drugs.
Yeah, don't do them, man, and don't drink and leave your house.
Don't drink and drive.
Hell no, it's illegal anyways.
Exactly.
So, anyways, yeah, we're gonna wrap this one up, guys. That's been our review of Chris Adams' Dark Side of the Ring episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. That is it for now, and we are out of here. See ya.